Okay, I'd like to now call to order a regular city council meeting. City Clerk Duarte, will you please take roll?
Councilmember Ashton.
Present.
Councilmember Frometa.
Present.
Councilmember Saab.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco.
Present.
And Mayor Rodriguez.
Here. At this time, I'd like to call Mr. John Velasco from Heart of Compassion to do the invocation. Please stand.
Father God, we just thank you, Lord, for blessing over the city council, from the mayor to the mayor pro tem, the rest of the council, Lord. Please protect them as they go about their civic duties, and also pray for our first responders, fire and police, and all the city employees. Give them protection as they do their appointed duties. And we just thank you that the mayor and the council would make godly and wise decisions, Father God. And we just bless them in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
While you're still standing, I'd like to call Dorothy Pepperton to handle the flag salute, please.
Please face the flag of our nation. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. To my colleagues in right and left, before I ask you for your comments, announcements, and requests for future agenda items, I'd like our city manager, he's got some kind of special news he'd like to share with us, please.
Well, certainly wanted to talk to the council and let the audience know that one of the things that we always pride ourselves is looking for additional money and how to improve our neighborhoods and our parks. One of the things that we're doing, or several of the things that we're doing, is through Measure S, is obviously we're improving some of our parks, we're improving our fire stations and police stations, and we've hired more additional police officers. But even with all the Measure S money, we're always still a little bit short, and there's always things that need to be done. Just yesterday, through the hard work of our assistant city manager, Mr. Osqui, and through our mayor, visiting with our supervisor, Han, we were short about $1.5 million for the refurbishment of Wilderness Park. And yesterday, the Rivers and Mountain Conservancy, through a team effort, granted the city $1.5 million to finish that improvement. So that's a really great thing. The other thing I wanted to let everybody know is that on a recent conference of mayors, the mayor came back and challenged staff to see if we can become a Better Cities for Pets. And so a Better City for Pets is one that engages the residents and making sure that they're active with their pets, and we do things for pets to make sure that they're taken care of and they take care of us. Two of the initiatives that were started by the mayor is Pets for Vets with our local SIACA. It provides pets for veterans who need them as potentially comfort dogs or service dogs. And then the mayor's choice for adoption. So he picks a pet, chooses it, and both of those were really high value things for the Better Pets for Cities. And so we submitted an application. They recently designated Downey as a Better City for Pets. So congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
So being a real dog lover, and hopefully there's more dog lovers in the audience, that's a big recognition for our city. So thank you, city manager. So moving on to my big little brother at the end, Alex Saab, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Always nice to start the meeting on such a high note. And I also want to extend gratitude to our mayor for so many causes, but particularly the dog and animal cause. It's really something that really helps and affects our quality of life, so many of our residents, and it really is a noble cause. And I just want to thank our mayor for leading the charge on that. Just a quick few people in the audience I want to recognize. We have a school board member, Martha Sodatani, in the audience. Welcome. Thank you. I saw Downey School Principal Tom Houts in the other. And then representing the Downey Chamber of Commerce and also the Kiwanis Los Amigos Kiwanis Club, Michael Calvert. There he is. And of course, next to him, Michael Chirko, I think is with Courage Forward now, right? Courage Forward? No? Okay. Big advocate for vets. Thank you, Mr. Chirko. Thank you. Did want to report out. We all had an opportunity, most of us had an opportunity to attend what's called the Independent City Association Summer Conference. This Independent City Association is a group of cities that are mostly independent cities, and what that means are cities that tend to have their own either police, fire, or some kind of independent service rather than contracting it out to the county. So that's always a valuable lesson, being able to attend those and sharing some of the common practices with other cities and learning from others. And one of the things that we had learned, aside from issues regarding homelessness and development, but that was something that's important. I think that all of us, or many of us, have heard in the news the last few months, unfortunately for political questions, but it's really regarding the census of 2020. And just want to reiterate how important it is that we all participate in that. But I think even more important, there was a presentation from one of our neighboring cities regarding having some I guess it would be like a presentation thing in their city hall. And I don't know if maybe our city can look into doing that. It's they had like a poster board thing and some information, and they were able to work with the Census 2020.
Yeah, Councilmember Sabo, I actually have been working with the Mayor Pro Tem on that. She invited us recently to a regional briefing from the census on that, and so I'm working also with the Community Development Director to develop a program for outreach. So we're doing that. Yeah,
it was a kiosk. That's what it was that they had. So it didn't have to be too big, but I think it's just out of sight, out of mind. The more we can remind people of the importance of the census, and it really doesn't take long to fill out the form, and it's all confidential, but it makes a huge difference for our community as far as allocating funds and getting and it really is our duty as citizens of this country to fill that out. So I encourage everyone to do so. On another note, and now since we have our school board member, I think it's fitting that we talk about it. This week is the last week for the MAID program that through the school district. And what the MAID program is, it started a few years back. For those who may or may not heard about it, it's an incredible program where they get students from our high schools. They partner them with local businesses, and they give them an opportunity to work for pay or intern for pay in the summer. And this program continues to grow, and I just can't tell you this is the second year I've taken students this year. I took 2 in my office, and I had lunch with them today as their last week, and I can't tell you the value that they experienced and just seeing that different perspective. I mean, as young people, they're always in classrooms, but seeing that different perspective and really gives them an opportunity to see maybe learn new things. I was excited that one of the kids that interned with me says she wants to go to law school now, which she didn't have that perspective before. So I just want to thank everyone that's involved. I know we have here also the principal from Warren. Laura Rivas is with us. I'm sorry I didn't see you earlier. Sorry. Welcome. But now that we have you here, I just want you to know the students are great, incredible. One of the students I had, both of them they're incredible. So that's a great program, and it really is something that distinguishes us. And once again, circling back to the ICA about being independent city, we have the best of everything. I think in our city, we have not only the best of our own police, our own fire, but we have our own school district, and it really allows for those things to flourish and to really be able to cultivate our own and make our own decisions as a community. So thank you for all that are involved. Just a quick couple events that are coming up tomorrow from 2 to 3. There's going to be a panel at Apollo at the Columbia Memorial Space Center, and it will be an Apollo retiree, and they will be speaking regarding a panel of Apollo retirees, and they're going to be speaking about Apollo 11 returns to Earth. So anyone who's out there who wants to attend, it's free from 2 to 3, and then on August 1st. Next Thursday at Benihana, the Downey Chamber of Commerce is having their Let's Do Lunch Should be fun at 12 o'clock. Good way to network and meet other like people in the community. And then just want to thank staff. I know I've been kind of trying to push this for several years. I'm sure I drove their city manager crazy and our assistant city manager and our Parks and Rec director, but I want to thank them for putting the lights on the bocce ball court. I was there on Saturday, and those Saturday, and those gentlemen who were there, ladies and gentlemen, were really appreciative, and they just makes a whole world of difference to them. So those are really the things that make a difference in our community. I want to thank everyone that was involved with that, and also our public works director. I know I reached out a few months back. I know he's not here, but regarding a little slither of property that's on Florence between Sideview and Downey Sanford Bridge, kind of was dilapidated a little bit, and it's just one of those things. I mean, it's a big city, 13 square miles. I think we didn't know that the city really owned that little piece of property, and it was just sitting there, and the city looked into it, and they were able to determine that the city owned it, and now they put a nice hedge there, and I think the residents around there are really appreciative. So thank you for that. And then lastly, if we can maybe have community development come back in maybe the next few months, and I think we can have a discussion on the signage or code regarding window decals, or the amount of percentage that the windows percentage that could be on the windows. There just seems to be maybe some questions that maybe we may have, at least I have, and I think it's important that the rest of the council hears that and just have a discussion. Maybe there'll be a change, maybe there won't, but I think it's important that we talk about it.
Okay.
And that concludes my comments. I'm sorry for talking so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to Councilmember Claudia Frumeta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you here this evening. Thank you for coming. I say engaged communities make for strong communities, so welcome for tonight's council meeting. As my council colleague Saab mentioned, some of us attended the ICA seminar in Carlsbad a couple of weeks ago, and one of the sessions that I attended had to do with Economic Development 2.0, and this really was interesting, and it really got me to think that Downey is doing a lot of these things, and thank you, Aldo. I know we are forward thinkers. There's a couple of figures that were presented. 80 million millennials and 50 million Generation Z represent 40% of the population in California. And that represents $750 billion in spending power. That's a lot of money. Certainly Downey is a younger city. And with that, looking at, again, I'm reminded about, the 3 C's. And it was interesting because over the last couple of council meetings, we have been discussing that. In fact, there was a presentation about digital technology and carrying our city forward in that respect. And so what are the 3 C's? Consumption. People are buying differently these days. 2, community. People's movement patterns are changing, and we see that around us, certainly. And of course, communication. We live in a society that is engaging in various modes of social media platforms. And again, the digital engagement is so profound with this generation. And so it gets me to think that, again, the decisions that we're making here at the dais are really representative and reflective of the research and what we are seeing in terms of what is going on in our state, but certainly what is going on in our community. And as we're moving forward, we are taking into account that the patterns within our community are changing. And so I really enjoy that presentation. And again, coming back to Downey, looking at what we're doing with our website, what we're doing with the website, the app that we have, and some of the ways that we are continuing to try to reach out to our community, it's important. One of the other things that excuse me, I was happy to be a part of and attend was the last concert in the park last Wednesday. And we had Wise Guys Band with us, and they've been a part of the series a number of times. And it was a very, very nice turnout as I went out throughout the park and visited with many of our residents. One of the main questions they had is, why is this the last concert, Councilmember Frometa? And so they mentioned some of the other cities have a couple of extra weeks, and so I would like to bring it to the staff and perhaps for us as my council colleagues to really consider for next year taking the concerts maybe a couple of extra weeks. We realize there's cost associated to that, and we want to be mindful of our budget, but at the same time, this opportunity of having the community together is really important. Certainly we have a Rose Float Association that benefits from these concerts, and they do use it to raise a little bit of money. So that was that. And last but not least, I also had the great pleasure of attending last week. We had the Apollo 11 festivities, and throughout the nation, we had tremendous outpouring of support and activities and remembrances for such a historic time in our nation's history. And here in the city of Downey, Downey is such a part of that history because we manufactured and built the Apollo 11 and then later on Apollo 13 here in this very place. And so I do want to thank and recognize all of the staff members that were part of the activities all of last week, the Columbia Space Center for our community. It was a very long week, and I know, Ben, you and your staff did tremendous amount of work for that, so thank you. Saturday was really the culmination of that, and I won't speak too much on that. I'll also let the mayor say some things about that, but I had the opportunity to meet some of those engineers that were part of that project 50 years ago, and again, like I told them, I was not a twinkle yet, almost, but not quite, in 1969, and it was such a tremendous time in our nation's history. So it was really phenomenal to see the Downey community and surrounding individuals come to Downey for that. Couple of events that are coming up. As you know, summer is rapidly coming to a close, and there are still many events that are going to be happening in our community. I do want to tell you that the Girls on Fire program that Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco and I have been working on with also the staff is coming up next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we are excited to have over 107, 108 young ladies attending. We've partnered with our district, our school district, and certainly our superintendent has been incredibly supportive of this effort. We hope this is the beginning of ongoing annual partnerships and collaborations about that. And on August 6th from 5:30 to 8:30. Right outside here at our Civic Center is National Night Out. Please share that with your neighbors and your friends. It is a really fantastic opportunity to come and engage with all of us as well as with our police and fire departments. Mr. Mayor, that will conclude my comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Moving on to Councilman Sean Ashton.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending our City Council meeting. I also attended the Independent Cities Association conference. I am a board member of that organization. I am the vice president of that, so I had kind of we worked on a lot of these topics for this conference, and I actually had the opportunity to moderate one of the sessions on homelessness, and with this was kind of a different look because a lot of the time when being in this seat here, we get complaints from residents saying, why can't you get rid of this problem? Why can't you just move them to some other city? Or what basically, why can't you take care of this? And so there are a lot of things that our hands are tied with when it comes to homelessness. Obviously, it's not a crime, but we also want to make sure that one, we're treating them with the respect and dignity that they deserve, but also that we are doing things the right way and not just kind of shoving the problem to another city, another area. And one of the presenters there actually was from the city of Claremont, and they kind of talked about a plan where they worked with, so that their Claremont is partnering with the city of Pomona and the city of Laverne in developing a region-wide plan to, or not a region, like a local area plan to help, with the spending of the Measure H and the Measure Triple H funds that the county and the voters approved a couple of years back. So that, for us, I think that'd be a good thing to maybe look into here. I know we have certain things that we give our some of our block grant money to Hoviness and Whole Child and groups like that help with that problem as well. But if there is a way that we can kind of look into maybe kind of coming up with some sort of a local area approach, partnering with some of our other cities to maybe come up with something as well to help with this problem, it would be
Sean,
something that would be
so
really
just
good.
so you're aware, every month we have what's called SPA 7 meeting. So every month we have, I take the time to invite all of the cities in the SPA 7. I text their mayors, I text the city council members, and today is myself and a member from Huntington Park. So you're right, to your point, we are doing it now with all the service providers. It just takes elected to get involved, and we're the only ones that are, want to do it. So
again, this was just something that was kind of presented to us at this meeting, so I just kind of felt that I needed to share. I mean, SPA 7 does their thing, but this is kind of separate from their SPA network, that the 3 cities kind of work together to come up with something. So that was kind of something that I was hoping that maybe we could look into a little bit to see if there's a way to do that. So with that, there are a couple of events coming up. So we have this Saturday at the State Gallery, Downey Federal Credit Union's hosting an event called Bite of Reality. So those of you, and I know we have parents in here, this would be a great event to take your teenagers to, because what Downey Federal Credit Union started doing a couple of years ago was kind of talking to our high school students, letting them know about the benefits of understanding how credit works, what you need to do to be prepared to be an adult, things that we would have been great to have when we were their age. But it's going to be a program that they're going to have at State Gallery from 10:30 to 1 p.m. So if you're able to take your teenagers there to kind of give them kind of a idea of how to build your credit your credit score, and the effects of credit cards, good and bad, and they're going to be talking about getting a loan for college and how that affects you. So that'll be a really good thing for your sons or daughters that are teenagers to attend. Also, the following Saturday, August 3rd, they'll be at Golden Park. There'll be Golden Music and more, and so I believe they're going to be having music out there and different activities for the kids and the such. So that'll be from 3 to 5 p.m. at Golden Park, and that'll be on Saturday the 3rd of August. And other than that, I just wanted to say, one other thing, hopefully, this week you've seen the new Downey Link buses driving around. I was we planned on purchasing them and purchased them, and it's just finally good to see that they're actually out on the streets, and they look a lot cleaner, a lot newer, a lot fresher. So, hopefully, our residents get an opportunity to use those. But thank you to Parks and Rec and that for working diligently on that, making sure that happens. So with that concludes my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you, Sean. Moving on to Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco.
Thank you. I'd like to also start off by welcoming everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to recognize a special person in the audience. It's my mom. You don't always come, but thank you for coming tonight. Several events that I attended. I attended the Independent Cities Summer Seminar in Carlsbad. And one of the sessions which was previously mentioned was the 2020 census and the importance of being counted and what cities can do to help the residents. I know our city manager and I have had numerous conversations about this. I'd like to also see if maybe we can develop a subcommittee to look into maybe creating a kiosk or seeing what we can do to become better prepared for the census.
Sure, we'll put it on the next agenda.
Thank you. Also, I had the pleasure of attending the Downey Promenade that had a special celebration on Saturday with regards to the Apollo 11 50th anniversary. And this is an exciting day for Downey because Apollo 11 was designed and built here in our city. And I did want to mention, I did hear Ben's voice over on KCRW talking about Downey's involvement in Apollo 11. We had numerous activities going on last week, and it was a great event. Great job, as always. So thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. Also, I had the pleasure of having a student intern at my office for the MAID program. And this Thursday will be the MAID culmination at the Space Center from 6 to 7:30 p.m. It's always a great program. I've been involved in this program since its inception about 3 to 4 years ago. And it's always a pleasure meeting these great students. I've kept in touch with all of the students that have worked at my office, and it's truly a pleasure. And so I want to thank Downey Unified School District for having such a great program. Also, next week, as was previously mentioned, we have our first Girls on Fire workshop. I'm happy to report that we have 110 girls registered. This will be a 3-day, half-day workshop, and Councilmember Claudia Fermetta and I will be there on all 3 days. And I'm happy to announce that also our city attorney will be in attendance. So this will be a great event. We're hoping that every year it continues to grow. And the event will be held at Downey High School. So I want to thank the principal, Tom Houts, for graciously hosting our students. Thank you very much. Also, I want to thank our police chief. Thank you very much for patrolling Artists. I've heard from several residents that they were really happy to see more of a police presence to help them with their speeding problem. I know maybe there isn't too much speeding, but I think by seeing the police presence, it helps deter people from speeding. So I truly appreciate you and having our police over there. And I also want to thank our fire chief. I want to thank our fire chief for, I'm just thanking everyone. So I want to thank our fire chief for updating our website on how to be better prepared for the next earthquake. So I truly appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I also want to add upon Councilmember Fermetta's comment about the concerts in the park. I'd like to also see if we could extend it out if possible. Maybe even look into what other bands we can have to make ourselves competitive with our neighboring cities, how we can improve it, whether we should start later, what we can do to make it even better. It's already great, but there's always room for improvement. So I'd like to see if we can do something about that. And that concludes my comments. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Well, usually by the time they get to me, they've already mentioned everything we've done in the city for the past 2 weeks. But fortunately, I did not attend ICA with them. I stayed back, and I was able to attend the Lions Club reorg of their new officers, which is a great thing. Lions Club is a very strong nonprofit service club in our city, as well as I had the opportunity to be an invited guest for the Medal of Honor, new latest recipient, Staff Sergeant David Balavia. David is a United States Army Staff Sergeant, retired. David is the one of the living Medal of Valor or Medal of Honor recipients, and Dave he's a very motivational speaker. But more than anything else, David is a true patriot, and so I was honored to be there with him and have breakfast with him at the Jonathan Club in downtown. One of the other things that I love to do as a chaplain in our city is the churches invite me to go and speak at their churches, and I love doing that. Most recently, the Lord's Grace Temple here at the Downey Island, they did like a little talk show type of environment where they had some chairs up there, and the pastor asked me questions about what it's like to be mayor and chaplain at the same time. And so I was able to do that with them. Great opportunity with them. Our Coyotes out of Downey is growing with the volunteers. We have, I believe, 19 in backgrounds now to volunteer to help with our coyote problem within our city. And as our city manager, Gilbert Leaf, has mentioned, the mayor's choice, the dogs, it's kind of funny, the dogs that I choose from, they usually get adopted within a day or two. And so this has now started something with the other 7 cities in this joint power authority. And so now, if I do it once a month, so that's 12 dogs times 7. So, we're almost at 100 dogs per year being adopted just by the mayor's efforts for all our surrounding cities. So that's a great thing, as well as it's now become contagious with this new certification of better cities for pets. So now it's become contagious to help our pets get adopted and find their forever home. So that's kind of important to me. As Claudia mentioned and Blanca mentioned, we had a very big space weekend this past weekend. And I know, Ben, they gave you an applause already, so I won't have them clap for you again. But I will tell you this. This poor guy, when the media comes to our city, we have to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so this past week, he had a couple of 22-hour days. And so that really shows his passion for his job. I mentioned this to him in front of an audience last weekend, and I'm going to tell you him now in front of you, this audience. Our Space Center is successful because of his passion. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the guy you need to thank for our Columbia Space Memorial. Ben. Thank you, Ben. And then I guess I really am getting old, because when Claudia mentioned the 3 C's, all I kept thinking was cash, cash, and cash. But I guess I'm getting old. Anyways, a couple of things here I forgot to mention. So on August 21st, 2019, I'm working with the LA County Department of Mental Health for our SPA 7 area, and we're doing a employment opportunity and wellness fair right here at the Columbia Space Memorial. We're doing it here. For those of you that want to get involved, with the mental health issues, those of you that know somebody that's a recent graduate from college, those of you who want to volunteer, we plan to have that on August 21st. It's another opportunity to serve in our community. We all know that we're one of the very fortunate cities in Southeast LA County. We have one of the lowest numbers of homeless in our city. However, we also know that the mental health issue is a big component. So how do you deal with it? So we'll have that employment and wellness fair to discuss that. We can all get involved and help. That's it for me for the moment. Let's go down and do some presentations. Okay, so if I can call Dorothy Pemberton to help me. So Dorothy's going to talk about our Parents of the Year program, and I'll let you run from there.
Okay, thank you. I hadn't heard about National Parents Day until a friend of mine received the award, and I was honored by receiving the award. And as I learned about it from 2 people that started this in our city, Martha Michael and Katrina McCarthy, they started this about 15 years ago for the city of Downey. It's a nationally recognized day. The history of it is National Parents Day was established in 1994 when President Bill Clinton signed a congressional resolution into law for recognizing, uplifting, and supporting the role of parents in the rearing of children. The bill was introduced by Republican Senator Trent Lott. This is also held nationally on the 3rd Sunday of July. So we like to continue the tradition. Martha Michael couldn't be with me as well. She's my partner, co-chairman. She has some health issues. And I would like to then at this time call up from the 3 high schools. We have principals recognizing their 3 honorees. From Warren High School, Ruben and Cheryl Juarez, and along with Principal Rivas. Would you please come forward? From Downey High School, we have Ishmael and Patricia Chavez, and Principal Tom Houts. And from Columbus, my former middle school, Woodruff Junior High, is Reyes Garcia and Sochi, principal from Columbus. I would then like to ask each of the principals to say a few words for their parents.
Good evening, everyone. It is such an honor to be here to recognize our parents. And I'm going to steal from Councilmember Frometa, who said that engaged communities make for strong communities. And I want to second that by saying that engaged parents make for strong schools. We know there is tremendous value in being engaged in the education of our students, but a lot of times I know that our parents are busy. There's a lot going on in their lives, from the family to the work and just the daily ins and outs of everything. So it becomes really a challenge to be involved. So when you find that one person that gives 100% of themselves to the school, it's really quite rewarding to see that. But when you see the couple engaged, that really makes it extra special. And so this is a power couple. And I can't tell you the countless hours that they've poured into our band program because their child is a part of that. And then the benefit that that reaps into not just their child, their family, and their home, but also into the school, and how that weaves in the way that they support the program to benefit all kids and not just their child. And then furthermore, it's like, I don't know where they get the time, but then they get involved with PTSA too, and they just do tremendous work in that area too, supporting our kids through the PTSA model. So I'm really proud of their commitment to their student, their commitment to education, their commitment to Warren High School, because I do believe that they bleed blue and gold, yes? So I want to congratulate them and thank them. And I do want to extend an invitation to them. You don't have to have a child enrolled in the school to continue to provide service and to volunteer. You're always welcome to come back. Yes, we will gladly have you back. It has been an honor to work with you and to have you involved in our school. And I want to thank you for your countless time. Thank you.
We have also from Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Allard's office some presentations, certificates.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Sinaí, and I'm one of the staff members with Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Allard. And on behalf of the Congresswoman, we just would like to present some certificates to the parents as well in celebration of being honored during the City of Downey's National Parents Day and in appreciation of your exemplary commitment to children and families. So the first one is going to Reyes Garcia of Columbus High School. The next one is for Ishmael and Patricia Chavez of Downey High School. And the last one is for Ruben and Cheryl Juarez of Warren High School.
Total side note right now, learning about the dog-friendly city that Mayor Rodriguez has decided with the city council. I think it started at Downey High School. Their senior prank this past year, all the seniors brought their dogs to school. Yes. 4,000 kids, 300 dogs. What could go wrong? I would like to introduce the Parents of the Year for Downey High School, and that's Ishmael and Patricia Chavez. Ish, better known as. Just an example of the dedication that Ish has, not only to the school, but to the city. I met with him this morning because our football team is going to Hawaii. His son graduated last year, so about having the parents staying involved. Ish, the only reason that I allowed the football team to raise $158,000 to go to Hawaii was because of Ish, because of his organizational skills, and he's always there. But as I'm meeting with him, he said he had to hurry up and get over to St. Dominic Savio because he was feeding 600 kids later on that day. And then he apologized to me that he didn't call me back because last weekend he was up in the mountains because he's a scout leader. So this is the kind of person Ish is. And to add to that, his daughter is on our wrestling team at Downey High School, so he is the booster club for the wrestling team. So he has spent thousands of hours at the school, and Patricia, thank you for lending them to us, because I know it's a family affair when it comes to all of the dedication for this. But again, you can't have a solid program without the parent support, because it's just an enormous amount of time. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much.
Good evening. As the principal of Columbus High School and on behalf of our school community, I'd like to recognize Mr. Reyes Garcia for this special distinction. Volunteers don't necessarily have the time, but they have the heart. Author unknown. This quote exemplifies Mr. Garcia. He is grandfather and guardian to one of our wonderful students, Manuel Garcia, also known as Manny. Manny's presently returning to Downey from out of town. Manny enrolled into Columbus High School in October of 2018 from Downey High School. His goal is to transfer back and graduate from Downey High School. Aside from being a full-time parent and guardian, Mr. Garcia, along with his beautiful wife and brother, help as caretakers for his mother. Mr. Garcia has lived in Downey for 59 years. He is husband to Rose Garcia, and they are approaching their 41st year anniversary. Mr. Garcia and his wife are parents to 4 young adults and have 5 grandchildren. Though now retired, Mr. Garcia was formerly a painter on high-rise buildings. Mr. Garcia was introduced to sports at the age of 5 years by his grandparents, and he grew up playing baseball, football, and basketball. This experience shaped him as a person. He was a baseball coach for 30 years with East Downey Little League, Pony Colt, and 4 of those years were at Gar High School as the varsity softball coach for his daughter's team. Mr. Garcia's grandson, our student Manny, has also grown up playing sports and especially took a liking to soccer, where he was known for his agility, speed, and scoring goals as a forward. One of the things we at Columbus greatly admire about Mr. Garcia is how quickly he became involved and partnered with Columbus High School community for Manny, his grandson. Before school and after school, Mr. Garcia is a familiar face, either taking or picking up his grandson. Above all, Mr. Garcia was and is among Manny's greatest advocate and champion. At CHS, we admire how Mr. Garcia has high expectations for Manny, is always hopeful, encouraging, and loving towards his grandson in a way that only a grandfather can. Through Manny, it is clear just how much Mr. Garcia loves Manny's father, his son, his wife, and his family. At Columbus, we are incredibly grateful to Mr. Garcia because although he was new to our school community as of October, and his grandson has the goal of leaving us to transfer back to Downey High School, Mr. Garcia has truly stepped up to the plate through his support and participation in parent groups for our WASC and Model Continuation High School visiting committees. Mr. Garcia is not only a champion for Manny, but also for Columbus. His participation as a parent guardian in various committees truly helped our school community earn the distinctions of Model Continuation High School and a 6-year clear accreditation status by the WASC commissioners. These are among the highest recognitions that can be granted, and it could not have been accomplished without the partnerships of those such as Mr. Garcia. Mr. Garcia is a man of his word and a person we at Columbus can count on. Somehow, he finds the time and he always shows up. Manny is like his grandfather, respectful, polite, hopeful, and has positive goals. While Mr. Garcia uplifts others with his words of encouragement and hopeful and positive outlook on life, Manny, like his grandfather, uplifts others too with his bright and warm smile. Though the road has been a bumpy one at times, Columbus, like his grandfather, Mr. Garcia, believe in Manny. We are part of Manny's team, too. And together, we are cheering him on to do great things. Like his grandfather, Mr. Garcia, we believe Manny is a solid, stand-up young man who will help others and contribute positively to his community, just as his grandfather does. We believe that Manny will pay it forward, too. On behalf of Columbus High School, we greatly appreciate this opportunity to publicly acknowledge you, Mr. Garcia, and express our gratitude to you.
Well, I always say that this is what separates our city from everywhere else in the rest of the world. It's the heart of the volunteer. You proved my point. So I have these certificates here of recognition. They read, on behalf of the citizens of Downey, in honor of your selection as the 2019 Parents of the Year, thank you for your commitment to your family and to the children of our community, given this 23rd day of July 2019 by myself and all those people you see behind me, my colleagues. So I'll start off with Ruben Juarez. Cheryl Juarez. Ismael Chavez. Patricia Chavez. And Reyes Garcia. Mr. Garcia, you're the hero today. So I gave them our city pin. That's the pin that we all wear. We wear it proudly because it's a part of our heart. So each of these volunteers have that city pin to wear the rest of their lives as well. So, all right, let's take some pictures.
For the men, I have cookies because
That's very nice.
I don't know that. I volunteer.
I think Martha should be in the picture too. Martha Sotatani.
Yes. Good, yeah.
Where's the mayor?
There you go, Alex.
Good. Did you guys like the Greek? Did you get one for everybody?
Let's take a 5-10 minute break. Stretch your legs.
You only need one.
No, I.
Okay, can we reconvene real quick? Those elected officials, can you please take your seats? Well, I owe you all an apology. I messed up. Where's Dorothy at? Oh, she's not here. Good, I can talk about her. She took my notes, and so I thought we were done. So my mistake. My mistake. So I want to, we have one more group to recognize, and I want to call up Mariana Pacheco to help me. And please. Okay, all yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What is Skills USA? And this is what the presentation is about, that we're going to present to the students. Skills USA is a national leadership skills conference, and it's a partnership which provides an assessment of career and technical education that is supported by industry, education, and policy leaders. It is a unique collaboration between employers and educators that simultaneously improve instructional education. This system helps the instructors to enhance the instruction in classrooms across the nation. This type of competition empowers students to succeed within their field and to excel in their career paths. Downey Adult School received the gold medal in regionals to advance to state, and received the gold medal at state to be able to advance to national competition. It was an honor to have our students participate in Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference competition this year in Kentucky, where our students, Carolina Morales, took the gold in health professional portfolio, and Priscilla Perez Salazar took the silver in practical nursing. They had to compete against other colleges throughout the United States. That's what the competition is about once you reach the national level. I would like to congratulate our students for their hard work and perseverance and countless hours that they had to give up and their family had to give up because they had to come back for additional training. Also to thank the teachers who worked tirelessly to impart their knowledge and assist the students in their skill sets, especially Ms. Mexico, who has been invaluable for us in Skills USA. She has given up countless hours to make sure that the students are well trained and are prepared for competition. And also she gives up her Saturdays and a lot of other days that she ends up having to help the students. So thank you so much to Ms. Mexico. And I want to thank Downey Unified School District for their support of the VN program, because these are vocational nursing students that are competing and allowing us to be able to compete at Skills USA. So I'd like to call up Carolina Morales and Priscilla, Ms. Mexico, and our principal is here, Ms. Blanca Roshin.
All right, so we start with Priscilla Perez Salazar. Carolina Morales. Did she get two? You get two for Carolina. And then one for. Okay, so we're missing one for somebody. No, this isn't. Okay. So, two students, okay. All right, you want to say a few words? No? Okay.
Hi, my name is Carolina Morales, and I just want to thank the Downey Unified School District for this wonderful opportunity to be able to go to compete in Kentucky. It was a wonderful experience. It was something that was empowering and just gave me a lot of confidence, and I'm really, just really happy to be here to share this with my family. So thank you so much.
I just want to thank my teachers, Ms. Pacheco, Ms. Mexico, for believing in me, believing in us. I want to thank my family and friends, because a lot of times I wanted to give up, and I didn't, and I got this far. Thank you all.
Right on. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. All right, picture. Okay, it's now time for non-agenda public comment. Before we begin the non-agenda public comment period, I'd like to remind the members of the audience and the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code. Members of the audience who wish to address the city council during non-agenda public comment are prohibited from engaging in any conduct that may disrupt, interfere with this meeting, such as yelling, screaming, cheering, or whistling. If a speaker engages in such conduct that disrupts or interferes with this meeting, I will ask city manager to have the speaker removed from the chambers until the end of the non-agenda public comment period. I remind speakers that each person has 5 minutes to speak on non-agenda items, and that your comments should be addressed to me and me only, not to any other council or staff member. Please step forward, state your name for the record. Those wishing to speak may now come forward.
Hello, I'd like to make a small request. I have with me 5 individual packets, 1 for the mayor and 4 for the council members. If I may, can I distribute those just to follow along with my public comment?
You give it to this young lady right here. So your name, I'm sorry, your name is?
Juan.
Juan.
Yeah.
Okay, Juan, how can we help you?
I think it'll just be clear with the packet in front of you, just so to follow along the same exact pace. Just because I referenced like tabs and everything, so.
Okay.
Just so we're on the same page. I have the same thing
Sure.
in front of me, so just like side by side. All right, so I come here on behalf of my friend Andrew Prayers, who is the recipient of the citation in question that I'll be talking about today. I have with me today 3 individual documents. First one being the letter addressed to the city council and the mayor, Rodriguez. Second document being the municipal code in question. And the third document being the grant disbursement from the Department of Justice in regards to the tobacco grant program for 2018 and 2019 and the city of Downey's implementation of said grant. So that's just the flow of it. The red tab has the municipal code section. The yellow tab has the city of Downey's grant application for said grant, which will make more sense as I go along. So the following letter reads as follows. Honorable Mayor Rodriguez and council members, on July 11th, my friends and I found ourselves at Golden Park, just as we have many times in the past. When I lit up a cigarette in the parking lot, P. Miller, badge number ID 10116, and another unidentified officer approached us and stated that they'd be giving me a citation for smoking tobacco in the park. When I inquired where I'd be able to smoke tobacco in the park, P. Miller stated that I wouldn't be able to anywhere in the park and that I'd only be allowed to on the sidewalk adjacent to the parking lot. Upon acknowledgement, P. Miller asked that the unidentified officer what the municipal code for the tobacco prohibition at city parks is, and said individual stated that it'd be DM 10-12-8. While P. Miller was writing the ticket, I asked that he exercise discretion under the pretense that I was unfamiliar with the law and wouldn't repeat my offense, but he stated that he's carrying out a grant from the Department of Justice that specifically targets tobacco use within the city, and that he absolutely had to issue me a citation. Upon review of the municipal code cited, I realized that 1012.8E, section 1, reads as follows. City park means any outdoor area owned or operated by the city of Downey, which is open to the general public, primarily recreational purposes, regardless of any fee or age requirement, including but not limited to picnic areas, playgrounds, sports or athletic fields, walking paths, gardens, hiking trails, bike paths, skateboard parks, and dog parks. It's a long sentence, I'm sorry. A city park shall not include a golf course, any paved public sidewalk immediately abutting the boundary of the city park, or any parking area within the boundaries of a city park. Upon acknowledgement, I reached out to the Downey Police Station on Friday, 12, 2019, and attempted to get a hold of P. Miller. I had his ID number, and they were able to forward me over to his voicemail. On Friday, July 19th, I tried to follow up with my voicemail, and nearly a week later, a message with the supervisor who stated that they relayed the message on over to P. Miller. Just yesterday, actually, on Monday, July 12, 2019, I reached out to the Downey Police Station and inquired about the status of my citation because at the time, it wasn't appearing on the citationprocessingcenter.com, which, as you may or may not know, is a website that you go to if you have a citation with the city of Downey, put in your citation number and the date, it'll pop up, hypothetically. However, even though it's been 11 calendar days since July 11th and that I only have 20 calendar days to actually, write an appeal and or pay the citation, it just wasn't happening. So ultimately, the person that I had spoken to at the Downey Police Station yesterday, Sherry, stated that she wasn't familiar with the citation process and that I would need to fax over my citation for her to identify what the citation number would be on it. I just assumed that, it's a general process. Citation forms are pretty photogenic. They look the same. You should be able to identify a citation, period. If you work at a police department station, and I'm getting, forwarded around to different people at this point in time, it should be easy to identify a citation with the right person on the phone. So given that City Council provides oversight to the Downey Police Department, I respectfully ask that the City Council help me navigate this confusing process and the implementation of the grant by their department be reviewed. So my own personal anecdote, not that I haven't given any already, I just wanted to add that this citation was given, and if per section E1, it was not supposed to be given. Given that this officer was out specifically to implement this grant, it's concerning to me that he was given a ticket, because if this officer is specifically out there for tobacco-related purposes, yet he's not familiar with tobacco-related laws, to me that's concerning. Because by all means, if my friend was within the city park and he was smoking a tobacco at the city park adjacent to where the kids are at, then by all means, but he wasn't. And that's where my problem is at.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Listen to the chilling effect.
Good evening, Mr. Herman. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. You hear the chilling effect when laws and regulations and a pattern and practice go unlooked? Well, again, maybe we should understand Section 708, that the court held that we must interpret the language of Congress, who chose issues should be uninhibited, robust, wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. But no offense to our Downey police, maybe they were just a tweak off and wrong, and maybe they should apologize. But we leave that at their discretion. However, last night when I got home at 2:30 this morning, that's I'm a little low key today, I was up there in the city of Pasadena fighting for housing and urban development, trying to rebuffing the funding that the greatest man on the earth so far has done to Los Angeles, kept $80 million away from those unlawful, discriminatory council people and the mayor of Los Angeles. Now, I bring this up as a consideration to what can happen to our small town, Downey, which is, as you heard from public concern and public outcry, And thank you to Ms. Frometa, saying that our city is sometimes growing too fast, too rapid. And we have to consider whether or not this is a part of what residents are looking forward to. Stacking and stacking and stacking. We no longer have a residential neighborhood. Thank you, Judge Alex Saab, for your presentation in the paper the other day. However, here's the problem I found out last night why it's happening. Pasadena City Manager, Steve Mermell, Mermell, is getting a $10,000 raise. A $10,000 raise. Doesn't that sound outrageous? Well, Mr. Lee was shaking his head. He appears he deserves $300,000 a year. Well, Mr. Mermell believes he's entitled to $10,000 as a city manager, which questions whether or not why we stopped 2 proposals last night in Pasadena regarding 253 South Los Robles Avenue, for the record, and that at 141 North Madison Avenue, for the record. Because I'm trying to explain to you. See, I make time to go to these meetings because I'm trying to educate myself. And it makes me more pleasant to understand bylaws and laws, and where scumbag politicians like that from Los Angeles who brought the FBI and a corruption scheme between DWP and that of Mike Fear's office for not collecting the monies that were rendered to the public after DWP raised their rate hikes and stole their money. Little old ladies and men, disabled people who live in their home had to pay close to these outrageous fees for their water or have it shut off. So going back to the rebuffing of funds though, see, I'm going to quote what Mr. Carson from Washington said. As you have been notified time after time and again, Mr. Eric Garcetti, of this unlawful discrimination. So then I go back to this time and moment under First Amendment. That Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise of, therefore abridging the freedom of speech. That the government for redress and grievances is part of policy, partner, and practice towards those and for those of the legislative body as I speak. I got the floor. So, to remind you that the Ralph M. Brown Act, the Bagley-Keene Act, the Bain Act, they're not a tool of punishment, but they should be rendered under First Amendment to protect the public who come here to speak, regardless of their opinion or not, and how they merit to say it, unfortunately and sadly.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. God bless you. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council member, city staff. My name is Emery Saipos. I reside at 1282 Smallwood Avenue in Downey.
Thank you, sir.
First of all, I thank you very much for serving our community. And I'm embarrassed to come again with the same issue before you. I have a few pictures. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for helping me out in May, power washing the property behind my building. And that's what I find on Monday. That's how the property looks right now. Thank you for the police chief for sending people out to help me out with the homeless situation there. I do appreciate that. I would like some help because it is an ongoing situation. Now it's going on for years. And every morning when we arrived at the store, you can see the puddles and you can smell urination and you can see what they ate the night before. Last Friday night, I have recorded on my camera 2 gentlemen. They came over around 9 o'clock and they want to urinate and I begged them not to do it, and they almost beat me up. I don't want to get involved on issues that I don't want to. I need your help. My customers, they don't do this kind of stuff, and after 6 o'clock, the store is closed, and every morning I go there, and I'm not sure exactly what I have to do. Number 1, number 2, or something else. I would like your help on that issue. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. So, Gilbert, with the bid, I guess, we talked about this, there's a new security contract that's out there now that's already, that's been activated.
Yes, and actually the last council meeting is when that particular process got started. Aldo, when are they looking to take over?
They're looking to take over in the month of August. Also, Mr. Sipos has been invited to the board meetings for the Downtown Association. The next meeting occurs on Thursday. And so I think that's a good opportunity for him to talk to the other property owners and see what they can do in partnership to address some of these issues. We'll also extend an exclusive invitation to Mr. Emery and that security company so he can talk to them about his issues in front of his property and behind his property so that they can take notice to what's happening there.
I kind of want to also mention, when when my company had the security contract downtown, we specifically made sure that they walk through the alley by use of technology. And so we want to make sure that this new company has the obligation to walk that alley, and because that's what will keep them away. That'll keep them away if they see a uniform presence going through there. So, okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no one else. Okay. I guess there is someone else. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Emily, and just to kind of reiterate of what Juan had already mentioned in regards to the citation with the smoking use, from me, myself personally, and for hopefully a lot of people here, smoking's wrong, but the issue doesn't come whether or not it's wrong or not to smoke. It becomes a matter of upholding the law properly. And within this case, for everyone to be able to uphold that law, but in particular for officers to be able to enforce that law properly. But if they're not enforcing it as what the packet based on what he had given you, with the exception of the parking lot being the exception to the park citation to that municipal code, that in particular becomes an abuse of power. And that's where the issue lies, right? A lot of people would end up being willing, like, hey, it's only like a cup. For some people, it's like $100, which is acceptable for them, other people for not. But even then, it becomes that person's obligation, in a sense, to be able to kind of follow up with the system. And when the system has failed, as in this case it has, a lot of people won't have the willingness or the time to be able to commit that time to kind of investigate. And that's what we ended up doing here. And so not only that, but also with that in mind, that wasn't the only issue. The additional issue that also came up when they tried to file the appeal, the municipal code wasn't showing up on the website as was read to you. And when they followed up once more to try to kind of appeal, apparently your office isn't quite up to date. It's still using fax machines and doesn't accept me emails, which, something to consider in the future, considering the age we're in. But to kind of having that more accessibility for the public to be able to come and speak, and we're taking time out of our day, as well as for the most part, you're all getting paid, let's be honest here. So appreciating the time that people put in here to come to speak to you, appreciating the time that they take to kind of fight the ticket. Yeah. That's something for, maybe not in our case might be like a setback, but for other families as well. So updating those, updating that technology so it's more acceptable, and also making sure that your officers are upholding the law properly, because it's not only, because it becomes an issue of that grant. If you're not obeying that grant properly, you may be in danger of losing that grant, and just for future considerations. And I hope you take this appeal seriously. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to tell you thank you for stepping forward and stating your comments, because we take everything serious at this dais, number one. But number two, also, I think, is it Andrew was?
Juan Andrew's his friend.
On the letter. So Juan was talking to one of the officers to, I hope, further, explain the situation. Go from there. We're always open door, open ears people at this dais, so thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. God bless you. Thank you. Okay, noting those, no further speakers, now non-agenda public comment is now closed. Are the consent calendar, any council members would like to remove or abstain from any items on this consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull item number 11 for discussion, please.
So I'm going to abstain from item number 5 because I own property within 500 feet of that that item. Anybody else? Okay. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the balance?
Second.
Okay. All right. Let's do public comment. Are there any public comments from the public concerning these consent calendar items? Welcome, Mr. Herman.
See, we have children in here.
Yes, sir.
And it's very true. We have to be very serious and respectful to all.
Thank you.
And it's quite well to note that you have an excellent father back there educating his son what a public forum is all about and what a public arena can set and do a precedence over. But let me get into the Maserati issue here.
Please.
Regarding Everest Street traffic safety. That, again, for the record, Chief Milligan Dean Art deserves a nice Maserati for the police department, for patrol. Because if Pasadena can offer a nice little chunk and change of $10,000 to its city manager, and Mr. Levis shook his head and agrees it's good money.
I promise you, Mr. Levis not getting $10,000 anytime soon.
I believe the chief should have that same consideration when it comes to a Maserati. But let's get to all these awards for contract. Yes, it's excellent to see citywide capital improvements going on. And although they jar us up in the traffic in the early morning and our late run back home, we find ourselves in this litigation and liability of problems. And that is, how far is the construction going to go? Let's provide a matter of direction in a process. You know, like when you set a line and 2 dots on the end and put an arrow on one end and shoot a ray across it. We got some math going on. This way we can determine the actual way how to make these improvements work quicker and have a result so that none of us are impacted by delays to get to work. Or maybe like myself, come home from 2:30 in the morning from South Pasadena, Pasadena with Mayor Terry Torkin, or Tornek. Very interesting guy up there, but I won't explain what happened there. But as far as a police station, yes, it definitely needs modernization. As you heard the prior speaker before me on her general public comment, you know, we need this department to get up to speed and relate to the conditions of personal complaints or just a complaint in general. So that way the chief of police doesn't have to bring his officer in and reprimand him and spank him in the hand and then, you know, get back to business. Because, you know, Downey is a good police department and it shouldn't be in the area of firing officers or retaliating. Although Los Angeles has that poor issue. And to the extent of this project, I don't see that there's a parking arrangement for the new Maserati. But there has been a desirable deemed 10% for construction contract for over expenses, which is a variance. Right, Mr. Levis? Thank you. So, going on to this agenda regarding the, we'll speak on item 11 when Claudia reopens it, because it's a special one for us.
Thank you, Claudia.
Let's go to the annual National Night Out on Tuesday regarding the police, August 6, 2019. I wasn't there, but I'm sure it worked out well at the Civic Center because our National Night Out usually works out in interest of the public. Then on item 10, I got plenty of time. Item 10, regarding the ordinance of the City Council, I promised Pasadena I wouldn't keep Downey up till 2 in the morning because they would probably drag me out into the parking lot.
Yes, good idea.
But relating to speed limits for Brookshire Avenue between Cherokee Drive and Florence Avenue, I think you need to do an analyst report or some type of report regarding the speeding that goes on up and down between Rosecrans and Gardendale. That seems to be a problem. I think I brought this up to your attention like 8 months ago, and I still hear those racing cars zoom by back and forth. I sleep in my car sometimes on the sidewalk and street just to see who they are. They go by so fast, it's apparent I'm dead asleep, sleeping in my car. It's doing me no good. Just agitating more to come here and complain. But that's another story. Then on item number, wow, so many items, all in one night, 12, and no administration. In closing, let's say that on the award contract for the amount of $1 million for city engineering, let's keep it simple, let's keep it clean. Thank you.
Thank you, Herman. God bless you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Right over there.
Simple, clean. That's a good slogan.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I did hear that one of the consent calendar items was going to be pulled, which is the one I want to speak on too. Should I comment now, or should I wait until that's being?
Well, we're going to have public comment again for item 11.
Okay, then I'll wait for that. Thank you.
Yeah. Sit. Okay. Carlos, you want to sit right there in front? Yeah. There you go. Okay, please vote.
The consent calendar was approved with Mayor Rodriguez abstaining from item number 5 and Councilmember Frometa pulling item number 11 for separate discussion.
Okay. Should we do public comment first?
Yeah,
Why
let's
not?
do
What the
public
heck?
comment first.
Why not? Or after?
Okay.
Or do first or after? First? Okay, Carlos, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And again, City Council, my son Marcel, this is his first time
Right
here,
on.
so he's going to be a little jumpy, so
That's
forgive
okay.
him for that.
That's okay.
Problem.
I've come here to speak on consent calendar item 11 regarding the street vendor issue. This is something that I'm battling with in another store that I have in an unincorporated part of the county, and the county still hasn't. I believe they still haven't come up with any ordinances yet. I think they're still battling with that. So I commend the city for coming up with something which I think is pretty comprehensive. But there's still some concerns that I have, and unfortunately, it's not anything that you've come up with as part of the ordinance, but it's something that's already part of SB 946, which is that the city, and I believe I'm reading this correctly, cannot require any street vendor or sidewalk vendor to ask permission from a business before they can set up. I think I'm reading that correctly, and that's to me of a big concern, because that our business that we have in the unincorporated LA, we have vendors that are just setting up in front of our doorstep on the sides, and they block up the streets, and there's really nothing that anybody can do, whether it's the health department or the sheriffs who have jurisdiction over there. And so one of my concerns is, will there be a mechanism for us to be able to have a street vendor not just show up, assuming that they fulfill all the requirements of the ordinance, permits and whatnot, of just setting up right in front of our doorstep and selling what we sell, essentially, or any other business that may have that, just to show up and you can't stop them. And the other item had to do with where the city can instruct these sidewalk vendors where they can set up. Will that also include streets that have timed parking, 20 minutes, half an hour, or an hour? Because that's another problem where parking enforcement doesn't come in and move them along, even though they're in an area that may have a red zone or 1 hour parking, and they just stay there pretty much all day, and nobody comes in and moves them along. So those are my principal concerns that hopefully the city will address.
Yeah, I'm gonna, before we finish this, I'm gonna ask our city attorney to kind of give us a summary or a snapshot in regards to, because there's a reason why it's written this way. And, unfortunately, we're at the beck and call of our state government. I agree with you. This really hurts the guy that pays rent on a brick and mortar business. I get it. And so what can we do to defend our residents and so forth? So I want her to kind of explain that in detail, what this, the gist of this is. So I'll let her do that when the time's right. But,
all right.
Thank you, Carlos.
Those are my comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herman, let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.
Okay. Before I get out of this council, I'm going to get you a seat up here. That way you don't have to walk so far.
Well, as you already know,
Yes, sir.
ADA prohibits discrimination.
Yep.
Children, seniors, people with disabilities always have a problem of navigating or using the public sidewalk in a safely manner. You have people vending, you have people with sandwich boards, advertisement signs, and really that's a violation of pretty much every city's code, except there's a exception. And LA created it for all of us in the state of California, and the scumbags in Sacramento agreed. Well, let's just give them permits. Yeah, well, how many of them have a permit? And has our city manager hired someone to regulate those permits and ensure that our safety, whether we're disabled, non-disabled, or have an invisible disability, are going to be protected by any city in all cities? Otherwise, it's called discrimination. And again, I pity establishments, storefronts, businesses, and restaurants that pay their taxes and have paid their dues. And then you get some squatter come in there and want to sell you a CD, like NWA. Nothing wrong with that group, but hell, you can't just take up the whole sidewalk, stand there all day soliciting. If you're moving around, it don't bother me. And besides that, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act has a lot of issues with that as well, especially when you get into the titles, like Title II, Title III, prohibits discrimination on the basis of one's complaint. And so if you plan, Council, to amend provisions of the Downey Municipal Code, I highly suggest you look into the ADA DOJ restrictions on that. Because even city and Caltrans furniture, like a street light or pole or a box that has all their electrical, must be moved to access the public in a manner that they can use the same sidewalk and street like their non-disabled peers. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you a great example. Get off on Alvarado downtown by the park. It's a horrible place to navigate with your animals, with your children, and your family. And I suggest I would never go there unless you really want to see what life's all about in the ghetto or the jungle, because it's horrible. People selling anything and everything right off the sidewalk from the curb to the business, and all you have is probably an 18-inch aisle to walk through and navigate, and yet the city of Los Angeles is happy with that until they're sued. And everyone gets upset. Why do you have to bring up the word suit or liability suit? Because you got to have a leverage that controls these vendors and controls the sidewalk. Otherwise, it's no longer a public pathway. It becomes an obstacle. And then the city becomes liable, because then you're upset because someone brings a complaint with a small lawsuit, which can be filed at any court. As long as you have, the attention of the city and you bring it to their attention that you're bringing a liability against them, you go spend $100, rank it up to $10,000, go to court and settle out of court, maybe walk away with $1,000. It's still a good way to have a party after that. and then to get that corrected. Because the whole issue is to correct it. What you do with the money, how you spend it, and how you blow it, that's your problem. But enforcing liability, responsibility, and accountability has to come on an ordinance that actually participates on both sides of this issue here, which is establishing a sidewalk vending. Before you make a decision like that, I really hope that you table this, go downtown as a group, as a body, as a council on our behalf, and see what it's like. See all the debris, see all the trash, see all the oil stains and all the remains that they leave behind, including urine and feces. And then I want you to point the finger back at me that I'm wrong and that it was a great idea to establish this so-called sidewalk vending. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Seeing no further speakers, public comment is now closed. City Attorney, would you like to share some light on this?
So, in January of this year, the state legislature said to cities that with respect to regulating sidewalk vendors, it had to do it their way, not the city's way. And so it enacted a law that said, cities, you're going to regulate sidewalk vendors in a certain way. You can only regulate these items. The rest, you have to defer to state law. This is your area of regulation. The rest, the state legislature is going to regulate. So what ended up happening was our ordinance with respect to sidewalk vendors became null and void. And what we've put here in place is as the farthest we can go with respect to regulating sidewalk vendors. We've taken advantage of all the leeway the state legislature has allowed us to regulate these. And what you see in front of you is as far as we can go with respect to the new state law. With respect to the businesses, the first speaker, I wanted to point the council to the part of the ordinance, section 6544.9. It says general sidewalk vendor operating requirements. And there is a laundry list of things, places, locations they cannot be located at. If you look at section 9, it says within 25 feet of any entrance or emergency exit of any business within their hours of operation, essentially, when that business is conducting lawful business. So that would address the question about folks sitting right in front of a business that's open for business, and then they're perhaps selling products that are the same as that particular storefront. And if you'll see, there's a bunch of listings of distance requirements from intersections, from traffic control devices, fire hydrants. On the ADA, when a vendor asks for a permit from us, they have to tell us where they want to vend. If they're stationary, what location they're going to be stationary at, or what route they're going to take with their cart. And if they're going to be stationary in the sidewalk, one of the tools we have is to say no if there's an ADA violation. We certainly would never approve anything that would violate the ADA, certainly for the liability issues, as the second speaker had raised. So that's a tool we still have, even under the state law. We would not approve anything that would obstruct pedestrian right-of-way either. This is the list of distance requirements for vendors, sidewalk vendors. Again, we take every application and review their locations to determine whether they're prohibited where they want to be, if they are going to violate one of these restrictions, or if they're in a location that won't pose any problems from a public safety standpoint.
Who looks at that? Is it community development, or which?
This is going to be, the process is going to be primarily in public works with police and some community development involvement as well.
No fire?
No, I'm not sure if fire's involved in any of the permitting processes. But certainly there's restrictions in here about flammables, those chemicals, those kinds of things. There's prohibitions for that in here. But the process will be headed by Public Works. It's going to be treated like it's a permit, but we're going to treat those as like encroachment permits. So the fees are going to be charged the same way as an encroachment.
And why six to seven? Is it 7 seems kind of early to allow that. 6 to 7 was the requirement or the time that was in the ordinance.
In speaking with the city prosecutor, he felt that that time period was the most reasonable and legally defensible.
7 a.m.
7 a.m.
7 a.m. is a little early.
That seems early.
Yeah.
Now, another thing,
Yeah.
Madam Attorney, I have a question. We realize that, we cannot prohibit, right? If I'm looking at page 2 on our packet, number 4, restrict sidewalk vendors to designated neighborhoods or areas, except when the restriction is directly related to objective health, safety, or welfare concerns. However, a local authority may prohibit stationary sidewalk vendors in areas zoned exclusively residential, where no commercial activity is permitted.
That's correct.
Right? So again, going back to then, the areas and the time. So how do we cannot restrict or prohibit, but yet what zones or what areas are exclusively, residential? Because again, as I'm reading this, we cannot prohibit this, and yet there are some.
So there's a distinction in the ordinance between a roaming sidewalk vendor, someone who roams, and one that's stationary. The stationary is absolutely prohibited. They're absolutely prohibited from being stationed in residential areas to sell products. However, the roaming sidewalk vendor can go into residential areas, but they can't within a certain period of time. And that's a distinction.
And so, and that's the time that we just.
That's correct.
That seems too early.
Well, if you'd like to make it 8 or 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., that's fine. I think we can work with that. It's just something that the city prosecutor thought was legally defensible, but if you want to change it to 9, that's fine.
I do. Yeah, let's do it.
Now, and as far as, there's also another item where we do have the ability to, at our discretion, have some parameters in terms of the number of vendors within a, particular area. Here, it indicates we cannot restrict, right, the overall number of sidewalk vendors permitted to operate within a jurisdiction. However, we do have to have some parameters in place in terms of within a zone, right?
We can, and we have regulated distances between stationary vendors, so that we don't have this proliferation of stationary vendors in one location. So there's distance requirements between stationary vendors. So if we were to issue a permit for one location and somebody came to ask for a permit and they're right next door, that wouldn't meet our distance requirements. So we've imposed those distance requirements between stationary vendors. The roaming vendors is harder to regulate because they're walking a certain route.
They move.
And that's the route we approve the route. That they tell us what route, and we have to review it and approve it. But it's a route that they'll just use to vend on the sidewalk.
So now, what are we going to do for? It's obviously, as you indicated a bit ago, our police department and Public Works will be, working together. I just want to, ensure, and also for our residents, many of them we understand, and we want to. We realize there are people who earn their livelihood doing this, and we want to be respectful of that as well. But at the same time, we also realize the sentiment, perhaps, of the members, residents in our community. So we want to be careful on that sense too. How are we going to enforce and make sure that the vendors that are out there do have the permits and that they are following the new plan in place?
Chief, you want to comment about how the department's going to roll this out and enforce?
In our previous dealings with street vending, we've responded via a number of different avenues. Sometimes it would be officers just driving through a specific area, seeing someone vending in previous violation of our prior municipal code, or secondarily a call from a resident requesting a response for someone in an area of concern. We would continue to respond those ways proactively in that instance, and I know that code enforcement would join us in the same with specific calls or complaints from residents or business owners in the areas. So it would be a multi-pronged effort on both our part as well as the part of the code enforcement team to address these issues as they come up or are brought to our attention. After the permitting process, of course, we would still be able to check to make sure that they have the required permits, that they have them visible. There are some requirements for either stationary or cart vendors to have the permits displayed. If they're a walking vendor without a cart, they have to have it on their person. We can request them to display that permit to us so we can at least make contact and verify whether or not they've gone through the appropriate permitting requirements to be there in the first place.
Now, Madam Attorney, is there, and forgive me if this is included in this packet and I just didn't see it, but is there a number of permits that we have to approve for this?
No.
Or is that, up to our discretion? Because again, we have this is the state law, but I at the same time, I just want to be very careful that our city does not become downtown Los Angeles, and then we have this proliferation of vendors.
We haven't put a cap on the number of permits that we would issue, but as we get permit applications, we have to enforce all those distance requirements. So that may cut down on the number, just because we have to enforce those distance requirements, might cut down on the number of permits that we issue for certain locations. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that'll be a problem. To be honest with you, I don't think that'll be an issue. But I think we have enough here to that controls the number of permits, because our city's only so large, and there's only certain locations really that vendors want to be in. They want to be around the parks. They want to be in the commercial areas. They want to be where there's customers.
Yeah, and outside schools.
Schools. That might limit the areas that people can get permits.
I'd like to see two things added to it or modified. The time, I just think 7 a.m. is not reasonable. Most, it's not reasonable. And then I think 9 o'clock may be more reasonable. And frankly, I think till 5. I don't know, we have till 6, but I mean, I guess I could live till 6. And then the second one, and I think the fine is just too low. $100 for the first fine, $200 for second fine, and then $500 each additional fine. I think it should be $250.
That is unfortunately, that is a function of the legislation.
Okay, figures.
It can only be an admin site, and those would be the levels in terms of amounts. And there's even a requirement under state law that if there's an inability to pay, that we have to make some accommodations for that as well. But this is just that piece of it.
And I do want to say something on the record. I think this is an absolute insane, another egregious, shakedown by the state to really, and shows really how out of touch they are. Cities should be able to determine if we want to turn our city into, a Skid Row, third world country like they do, then would be our prerogative, but they shouldn't shove it down our throat. And this is just another reason why there needs to be balance in Sacramento. The person who wrote this, it's former Senator Ricardo Lara, who's now our state insurance commissioner. I mean, this is. If you go to downtown, I was just here this weekend. I mean, it really looks like you're in a third world country.
It does.
And is that what most cities want in our communities? Absolutely not. And if I was a business like the person who came up, I don't want to say his name, but he knows who he is. I would be really ticked off. You're paying rent. You have a health department going to his business, and then all of a sudden someone's gonna walk around and sell out a product maybe $1 cheaper because they don't have to pay all the things that they have to pay. This is just an absurdity. I mean, as this is obviously, from Councilman from Edisney, but this is one of those things that, we've talked about before that you hate to have to vote on. Obviously, you want to put our city in a position of being sued, and this is one of the things that we're going to have to vote. You have to balance. We have to protect the coffers of the residents and do what's right to protect them. Or get sued, and this is one of those things. I mean,
I think also that part of the enforcement is in the permit process, because the street vendor, I don't know how much effort they want to put into a permit process. So I think we have to take that to the limit as much as law will allow as well, and that will kind of eliminate a lot of guys that don't want to do it.
Well, I love the $2 million liability. That's a great.
Yeah,
it
that's
should
a
be.
big one. The
Because you got
indemnity.
propane tanks.
That's
The background checks.
So most of these guys, if they're cash and carry business, they don't want to go down the road of doing anything that will bring in more attention to themselves. So the application process, I think that's really forces. And to the chief's point, if they don't have that placard or that license displayed on their cart, then they got problems. And so, if nothing more, it's like our homeless situation, right? It's not like Sean said, it's not illegal to be homeless, but I think why we're successful with it here because we engage our homeless, we engage them. And the same thing goes with these guys. We need to continue to engage them. So it's not just as easy, it's not just as easy as set up a cart in front of a already established business and do business. Make it a little more difficult for them. So, okay.
So
I did have one question kind of related to what the speaker brought up as far as so it's a 25-foot limit from any entrance or emergency exit to where they can set up at. And now if it's a private parking lot too, does that then can they still set up on that private lot? If it's if the business owns a parking lot, they can, even though the lot is owned by the owner of the store, they can still set up on that parking in that area.
So the ordinance says that a vendor cannot be on any private property without first having obtained a current and valid permit and license from the city of Downey first.
Right.
So they can still set up on somebody's private property,
provided they meet all the
Other-
requirements.
yeah, but some of the requirements.
No. I mean, I get that, but to me, I mean, and to what the speaker brought, that's just boggling because 25 feet is roughly that end to that end. That's not that far, and if it was like a public, somebody got permission from the public, or like a public right-of-way type of thing. Okay, that's one thing, but to actually give them the ability to do it on somebody's private property is what's baffling. And even though 25 feet, that's something, but that's, I don't know.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and that's exactly what we're dealing with.
Yeah, just to go with what you're saying, it's
imposing.
Like the purpose of what the law, I think, was supposed to be was one thing, and it morphed into this whole other thing, and I don't know, but
that's almost.
But yeah, that's Sacramento for you. So that was just my one question. So thank you.
And we'll just keep in mind this is our first shot at these regulations. We're going to continue to monitor and make changes and modifications, bring those back to you as necessary. So just keep that in mind as well.
So if a property is owned, it's a privately owned property, the vendor does not need the consent from the property owner?
Well, certainly they need to get the consent. That would be trespassing. But for our purposes, though, we would require that, at least in the ordinance, they couldn't just squat on private property and vend. They'd have to go through the process, get a permit, a valid permit, as well as all the other requirements for getting permission of the property owner, etc., before they can get on private property.
Yes, see, because
previous answer, I think there was confusion on the question. So I think Councilman Ashton asked, can somebody just go to a supermarket 25 feet away from the door? And no, they have to get permission. One of the requirements is you get a permit and you get permission from the owner.
Yeah, because
so this I foresee being more of an issue on the sidewalks.
Well, if it's a sidewalk type, that's one thing. But I mean, I'm kind of picturing, the speakers.
They'd still have to get permission from
and so then in that case, it can at least be pushed out to the sidewalk. But
And then,
Still.
and
But
then,
you also-
and then it'll look like.
But it's another again,
Third world
another
country,
issue. But
yeah.
but I'm just thinking, like, because you see the people that go to like, the big department stores in the area, and they'll kind of just ask for money right in front of the store because they kind of can. But yeah.
What about the health department issue? Can you address that?
Certainly, they're selling food. That would certainly be a requirement for them under this ordinance to get all those required approvals before they can get a permit. They'd have to get the county health sign off and clearance before they.
Before we issue the permit?
Yes.
And then, by the
Yes.
way, I didn't see, how much is the permit for this?
Ed, I think you
Morning, Ed.
$45 per year would be the
45?
And
the
that
vending
is,
the vending fee. Yes.
that is
Vending permit
what
fee.
is within the parameters of the state law too. We can
That's
increase
right.
those fees.
We treat this like an encroachment. So we can only charge what we would charge for an encroachment permit from anybody else. We have to treat them the same. So that is why we left the fee the way it is. I'm not saying that it's set in stone. We could always revisit it, even for just regular encroachments. Take a look and do a fee study and figure out if that's too low or not. But right now,
Well,
that's what we're doing.
I also think that the health department would have another fee on top of that. And so
Yeah.
we make it the prerequisite, they have to have the health department first,
Yeah.
and then us.
No, it
You know, I
is.
think that
Because
might
we
be-
give the final.
Yeah,
Yeah.
would be the.
Can we require them to carry a trash can with them? I mean, seriously, what about trash?
Good point.
Yes, there is a section here that addresses the trash. It's,
I didn't see it.
It's on,
Like they have to take care of the area that they're in for the
it's under
standing.
65449.9, 6544.9, and then it's,
Or 4.9?
yeah, it's subsection I. Sidewalk vendors shall maintain the area immediately surrounding the vending area in a neat, clean, orderly, and sanitary condition. Prior to leaving any vending location, the sidewalk vendor shall pick up, remove, and lawfully dispose of all byproducts and litter generated by the vending operation within 25 feet of the vending location. Sidewalk vendors shall not cause, permit, or suffer any litter, food, or discarded or abandoned objects to be thrown, deposited, or left upon any street, gutter, storm drain, catch basin, or other drainage structure, or upon any public or private land in the city.
Did the city of LA not pass one of these ordinances? Why is it so out of control? They have pop-up tents on, I just saw.
They haven't done it.
Huh?
Because the
They haven't done it.
covered
They
hot
ha- they-
dogs are so
The
good.
pop-up tents,
that's
all the
why.
way like down,
Yeah.
forgot what street I was on.
They have not done it. They have not been able to agree.
Western, I think it was. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, and by now it's out
Yeah.
of hand.
Right.
Yeah, it's out of hand now.
But they have not come up with a resolution to tackle that particular issue. That's why it's out of control and it's still not being enforced, so.
So this is just the first reading, right? We're gonna come back in 30 days?
So, what we're going to do is, I wanted to read into the record that section 6544.9, that would be subsection B2, that's the hours, would be changed, so the roaming vendor could not vend in residential areas between the hours of 5 p.m. and 9 a.m.
That's reasonable.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that would be that's the
not
only
being
change
overly-
I heard. And with that, then, with that change, we're going to take two actions. The first is to take action to adopt the urgency ordinance with that change.
Okay.
And then we'll go to the next item, the next action that you'll need to take, but we're going to take them separately.
I reluctantly make a motion in order to avoid litigation from the city.
I reluctantly second that.
So that would be a motion to adopt the urgency ordinance
Right.
with that amendment.
Okay? Please vote.
And then the second action would just be to adopt the same ordinance, approve it for introduction, first reading. It's the same ordinance with the same change. That would be the second action.
I'll also reluctantly make the motion with the hopes that our poor city Southern California doesn't turn into third world country,
Yeah,
which shall
reluctantly-
be, which shall
reluctantly.
be, well, should be unnamed.
Second that motion as well.
All right, first and second, please vote.
This is unbelievable.
We did it.
Okay, so,
All right, thank you very much.
thank you. Mr. Rivas, you have any parting comments?
Actually, I don't have any parting comments. My comments were already made earlier, so thank you.
Very good, all right. Okay, so tonight, we're going to adjourn this meeting, pardon me? I abstain from item 5.
Yeah. Abstain. Yep.
No problem. Thank you for reminding me, though. This meeting is now adjourned in memory of Michelle Marie Mueller, wife of Dan Mueller, city employee, and Danny, our K-9 officer, for the Downey Police Department, end of watch 7/15/2019. Please, a moment of silence. Meeting adjourned.